Hello, John.
Hello, Oliver.
Now, you've been continuing your travels around the country. You were covered quite a distance there in November, and you're going to talk to me about that.
That's right. I'm going to talk about my visit to plant the seed for the Christian TV Ireland project. This marvellous project that we have undertaken since last July, calling to churches up and down the country from Donegal down to Kerry and north, south, east and west. I've covered approximately 10,000 miles since I started it, and that's miles, not kilometres. And I've got a good reception, thank God, in every place that I've visited. Generally speaking, I just don't recall getting any reception that wasn't good. And I've also called to business premises, people that I did business with over the years, and then people that I was involved with as well around the country. And so I gave them the details about it and the leaflets, which these are the type of leaflets. I just showed the leaflets. That's one of the leaflets, and it's titled Good News for Irish People at Home and Throughout the World. And it describes...
If you just hold it down a little bit there, John, down.
Down, yes.
We see it there, yeah, that's perfect, yeah.
Yeah, I do that. And that requests donations and gives an idea. For example, I'll just sort of say, it says, Christian TV Ireland will be established with your help. And the website is there, www.christiantvIreland.ie. Will be established with your help. Good programmes for young people, married couples, and for all the family are assured with Christian TV Ireland. We support life from conception to natural death. We support family values and are dedicated to the honour and glory of God. The Christian faith was brought to Ireland by St. Patrick in 432 AD. One of the countries in the world where the Catholic faith was established before many other countries. Mm-hmm. It was 900 and something before it was even established in Poland, which is a very Catholic and Christian country. And then I have a little, find it on YouTube, I have a little thing here, and it says, about a little kid, and it says, Amen, I say to you, unless you be converted and become as little children, you shall not enter the kingdom of heaven. And that's Matthew, and there's the little fella proclaiming the news. So it's a good one. And as I say, we have a little thing at the bottom, truth cannot contradict truth. And that was St. Pope John Paul II said that. I do that one, and then I do this as well. It's a Christian TV Ireland, and it's a little leaflet that I also put up on notice boards in Catholic churches up and down the country and in business premises wherever I can do it. And it says, this would say November 21, and I put my name, just John. And I say your donation will be much appreciated, which it will be. And those that have already subscribed, they get a receipt.
Oh, very good.
From our bank. And the money is safe and will only be used for this marvellous Christian TV Ireland project. So that's number one. These are what I put up in the churches and wherever I can. And I call now, I'll just mention it where I was in the month of November. I was in Wexford, County Wexford, towns in that county. I was in Waterford, part of Waterford, up as far as, and I was in Kilkenny, believe it or not, and former businesses that I was in Wexford and in Kilkenny. I was in parts of Roscommon and Longford, and also parts of Sligo as far as Tubbercurry, and small towns and villages in between in the month of November. So I covered a sort of a crisscross of the country in that month of November. putting the notices that I've just shown there up on church notice boards. I visited presbyteries where the priests were there. I met some and they were very encouraging. I met, called into parish offices if I happened to be there when they were open, and I gave them the information. I called into the bishops' residences, at least 10 or 12 during the course of my visits in different parts of the country, including the Archbishop of Armagh, Archbishop Eamon Martin. And I called in there and spoke to the secretaries and so on and so forth and gave them the details. So trying to plant the seed and let people in important positions know what we're about. And hopefully that they will support it. And this is what we planting the seed that we hope that we'll achieve. And and also speaking to people that I met on my travels, and one of the things that I noticed as I was speaking to these people is that they wish the Catholic faith to sort of sometimes come back to the way it was. They're not living in the past in that sense, but there was a time in my youth and in my 20s when churches were packed. Packed, and confessions also. So they would like a return to that sort of reverence that was there. The practice of the Catholic faith has declined. Vocation to the priesthood has declined, and people are worried about that, because in a lot of parishes, if it wasn't for the priests coming from Africa, India and the Philippines and other parts of Africa and parts of the throughout the world, even ones coming out from America, where Irish priests planted the seed in that country over the years, in the 1800s and all the rest of it, and great mementos to them in various churches of what they did. Now, so they were concerned, quite frankly, that Mass would come back the way it was, and that not alone would it come back the way it was, but that the reverence would return. For example, they would like, this is what I've come across, they would like the altar rails to be re-established in the churches that were taken out because they were paid for by parishioners when money was very scarce. So they would like them to be back. They would like the sacrament of confession to be more frequently available by priests and that. But there's such a shortage of priests that perhaps they haven't got the time to, maybe 2 or 3 parishes, they would like to do it, but they haven't got the time. But at the end of the day, people need the sacrament of confession. So they did express that. And that if, for example, and priests come out with this as well when I was talking, because I listen rather than just reporting what I've heard in November and in other periods. They would like, for example, the Rosary and Benediction to be celebrated again. They would like the men's and women's sodalities that were a feature of Catholic life in this country and in other countries. So they feel that the people in charge, the bishops and archbishops and all the rest of it, have not implemented really what was in the Vatican II, which they went a way that wasn't actually in that. It was expected that the Mass would continue the same way, but if people then wanted it to have it in the local language, they could have it. But it didn't mean that the altar rails would be going out and the priest would be facing the congregation with their back to the tabernacle. They think that the priests, even in celebrate Mass in the local language, whatever it is, English or any other language, that the priest face the tabernacle, not the congregation with respect to the altar. That doesn't bode well. This is what this is what I heard from people that are concerned about the lack of vocations, particularly because it hasn't got the reverence that it used to have. There's not many missions. There used to be missions in Catholic churches every year, I was reminded, and all these devotions were part and parcel of being the Catholic lives, and it uplifted it's uplifted people. So they would like perhaps to return to that, and at the Mass. And here's the thing, that the Mass would be celebrated in at least 2 or 3 churches in every diocese in this country. And quite frankly, also to think throughout the world that while there are vocations, thank God, in other countries, particularly in Africa, and if it wasn't for that, we'd be really stuck. There'd be no Mass in churches, and there are some churches now where there is no Mass, and they have to wait. So this is for a country that had such a great Catholic tradition and sending missioners all over the world. So this is what they're concerned about, and I think they have to be heard. And one thing that was also mentioned, and I'll just mention this, that the bishops in this country now are having a 5-year, what they call synod or something, for the faithful to make their views known. But the trouble is, the faithful have made their views known, at least to me, and I presume to other priests, and priests would know what the situation is. And so one would expect the bishops to know that without having to sort of check with people, because some of the people now that are making their views known want a more secular type of a church, which is already part of the problem. So you need to have reverence, you need to have Mass celebrated in the traditional manner, and not to be interfered with by people inside the Vatican or anyone else, that people want to pray the way they want to pray. People join religious orders, contemplative orders, and they do that because they want to say the prayers and devote their lives to the honour and glory of God. And their views have to be respected in what they do. If it wasn't for them, we might be in worse trouble. The prayers that they say. They would also like, here's another thing, for it to be emphasised that the Holy Rosary should be said in every family home, and by individuals that might be on their own. To say that at least a decade of the Rosary, and to say their morning and evening prayers, this type of thing. And for the Catholic catechism to be taught the way it was taught in schools, which is not taught now apparently. So they have a whole heap of issues. And there's no point in kind of burying your head in the sand and thinking that it'll come right. It won't come right because there's no vocations. Dublin has only, I think, about 2 vocations, and other parishes, other dioceses have none. So that's a recipe for disaster. So they need to go back to the foundation, the way things were, and bring back the reverence and bring back because the faithful need that. We all need that sort of nourishment. So these are some of the issues that I came across, and and the Stations at the Cross to be said. I do that every day, and of course I say the Rosary and the Chaplet of Mercy and all these things because I'm retired and I have the time to do it. Obviously, when you're working, it's a bit more difficult, because when you come home after a hard day's work, and perhaps there's an environment that might be even slightly anti-Christian and anti-Catholic, because there have been attacks on sacred statues and sacred places around the world, particularly in France, in the continent. So this is the result of the weakening of the Catholic and Christian faith. So we need to get back to basics and start doing that again. This is what people have told me, and I'm passing on that word, and I'm reflecting the views that I hope, if this Christian TV Ireland project comes to fruition, we will promote the sanctity and the reverence and the devotions that the people are requesting.
I'm just wondering, you mentioned sodalities. For anybody who doesn't know what sodalities is.
Well, it was sodality was, for example, Catholic men in the various towns, villages or whatever it might be, and townlands, would gather once a month, and they would be going to confession and they would be receiving Holy Communion at the Mensedalities, and they would get encouragement for to live spiritual lives and to try and bring up families, if they have families, in the honour and glory of God, and to teach them from a young age the value of the practice of the Catholic faith. And this is mothers and fathers particularly, because they're supposed to be the leader of the family. They are the leader of the family, providing that they take their duty seriously. And also then the women, there was women's sodalities then, so that every fortnight there was a sodality for either women or men, and women then would also be going to confession. And they would have perhaps nuns and lay people and priests, giving them the sort of encouragement that they need, because it can be it's a good life, but it also requires that aspect with the mother and father, that they will bring up the children in such a way as to develop that great quality of the spiritual life and the Catholic life, which is a great gift in the sacrament of confession and all the rest of Holy Communion. And the sacraments that are available. So these are things that the men in the women's sodalities and the men's sodalities got. And here's the thing: I noticed in where the stained glass windows in churches that were donated by the way, by Catholics, and I've often seen the sodality, the men's sodality or the women's sodality, donating these stained glass windows in churches, which is lovely. I'd mention one other thing. I was in a Catholic church that celebrated, and it's the only church I think in the country, believe it or not, is named after St. Columbanus, and that's in Balliver. It's 200 years established there just recently, and the Bishop of Meath, Bishop Tom Deenahan from Cork, he's the Bishop of Meath now. We have a retired bishop, Bishop Michael Smith. He was from Oldcastle, and he's retired. But the Bishop Deenahan celebrated the 200th anniversary of the foundation of the Church of St. Columbanus in Balliver. I visited that church just recently, and beautiful church. And marvellous to see the fact that it was established before we got Catholic emancipation, which we got in 1829, but this was established in 1821. And I've come across other churches established that long as well. And I've seen signs up in churches where priests have gone to the missions. There was memorials to priests that died around the 1832 in New York, in St. Andrew's Church, parish priest that was there, and in different parts in Pennsylvania and various parts of America, memorials to them, and erected by maybe a sister or something, and then she would subsequently die and maybe pay for things in the things like that needed to be done with the roofs of the churches and that kind of thing. So all these little mementos are there, and I looked at a lot of them and took pictures of them. And the Stations of the Cross also donated by parishioners and their names under the Stations of the Cross, going back maybe 150 years. Marvellous, yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So you've been very busy going around the country, and you're enjoying yourself.
Well, I've started trying to plant a seed for this Christian TV Ireland, and I'm sure in due course people, when it begins to sort of, and they're able to use the internet, or if they can't, maybe if they're married and children can use it, and they can sort of see what it's about and know how important it is to try and undo the harm that has been done, and stand up for the Catholic and Christian faith, and give people encouragement, and try and bring back all these lapsed Catholics and lapsed Christians to the practice of their faith to save their immortal souls.
Thank you very much, John.
Thank you very much, Oliver.